Hello YouTube and welcome back. I've got a big video here for you today. Obviously on April 17th, we have Season 2 of Last Epoch launching, and in the meantime, preparing for Season 2, I've talked to Twitch chat and Discord, primarily Twitch chat, but there's a lot of people in Twitch chat, and we've been gathering ideas, brainstorming builds, trying to find out what people are excited about, helping people brainstorm builds, coming up with neat ideas for what we want to explore. And I have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 12. 12 builds to share with you today. One or two of them I'm going to breeze past with just a couple notes, but the build planners for all of these will be linked in the description of this YouTube video here. So these are not necessarily like the best builds, but these are things that get me excited to log in to play the game. Maybe they're exciting for you, maybe they're like a launching off point, but I love, before a patch launches, brainstorming with people. It's just like, it's the best. I love brainstorming. I want to play, but I can't. So let's brainstorm right now. We're going to start off with the build that I'm planning on doing for my season start. I made a separate video for this. This is a Fissure Smite build. If you haven't seen this idea floating around, it means you haven't checked out other videos on YouTube, including my own and Dread's. So there's a new node in Smite that allows us to take fissures and also have them scale. So unclear about whether they were bugged or not converting damage or dealing no damage or something happened with fissures in the past. However, updated patch notes, it looks like fissures are real. We can have multiple overlapping fissures under an enemy at the same time. So we're playing a Void Knight, we're stacking Vitality, and we're scaling Spell, Void, damage over time. This build's neat to me because it does not overlap with a Time Rot build, and it's not like a Devouring Orb Auto Bomber thing. So it's a Void, damage over time, Smite build. So not too much that I want to go over here. If you're interested in a separate video, you can check out my YouTube channel for my league start or my season start build for this. One updated thing that I want to tell you about this particular build is that if volatile reversal ends up being not worthwhile, because really we're not doing that much with volatile reversal. What we might do instead is drop this and take Healing Hands. Healing Hands, a spell that doesn't convert to void, but some damage is still worthwhile, and we still have a spell damage scaling. It can crit, we get critical strike chance. So maybe just like a tiny bit of extra damage from Healing Hands proc off of Smite. Maybe that's worthwhile, and then using that as a traversal skill could be a thing. Otherwise, Sigils is another option if volatile reversal is clunky and bad. So we'll see about that. The other thing that I want to shout out here is since posting the video, I've learned that in the Void Knight, one of the one of the differentiators of the Void Knight version of Fissure.Smite instead of Paladin is that you get access to the Renouncement node. So this is up to 2 times per 2 seconds, you can proc a Void Beam. And a Void Beam, it looks like just a little fluff piece of nothing, but it's actually quite good. I'll get to the exciting part in a second. It has 300% effectiveness of damage per second, as opposed to the 200 effectiveness overall. It's 200% overall from, what do you call it? From Fissure, right? In any case, effectiveness. The Void Beam, turns out it's a sub-skill. So we got confirmed from Mike from EHG that the Void Beam is, for some reason, it should probably be written there somewhere, but it's a sub-skill of Smite, which means it gets the 250% more damage multiplier from Sacrifice. Cool. So it's like bonus damage. It's pretty. It's a lot of purple, and it's a new way of playing Smite that you haven't had access to before. So I'm looking forward to this. I like this build a lot. And something that you're going to see in lots of my builds is something that I forgot to do here. So take a look at this real quick before we move on to the next build. My armor is 5,400, and I forgot to make this change. But we're going to type in bear, and then we're going to click on it. And then we're going to type in bear, and we're going to click on it. And then you're going to love this part. We're going to type in the word bear, and then we're going to click on it. So instead of having 5,000 armor, we've got 8,000 armor. So getting an extra 30 strength from these things here, you get endurance threshold per strength. We have a relevant amount of strength. Like getting the bear affix on these 3 things. I'm planning on doing this in a lot of the Sentinel builds that I've cooked up, because I think the bear stuff, like getting just huge armor here, is really worthwhile. So you're going to see that pop up a couple times, those sealed new set crafting stuff that's available in Season 2. Let's close this out. We'll move on to another build here. I'm going to go back to the top of the list. So I guess the first thing we're going to talk about is something that was proposed by Arborist. Arborist sometimes make YouTube videos. Sometimes he scales poison damage back when poison was a good thing. And he does like damage over time stuff. So let's pop open this. And I'm going to pop open one other build as well. So we have two builds that are kind of similar. This is Heartseeker. And the first one's going to be a crit Heartseeker. And the other one's going to be a bleed Heartseeker. So the crit one was cooked up by a member of Twitch chat, Calvara, and the bleed one was cooked up by Arborist here. So I'll post both of these, and you can use this as a launching off point for your brainstorming as well. So an easy thing to look at when it comes to Heartseeker is you can take the flat bow damage here. You can take the flat spell damage, and you could use either Dragon Song bow or Rain of Winter bow. There's so many moving pieces to Heartseeker, and like, it looks like an amazing skill tree, and it also looks like an amazing skill. So, holy moly. One of the things that really stands out to me about Heartseeker and my time looking at builds and talking to Twitch chat over the past hours or so has been that these three nodes near the bottom left of the skill tree look really strong. So getting the Dust Shrouds is a very relevant form of defense. And like this combined with like the crit stuff where Marksman gets a lot of life gain on bow use, life gain on skill hits, life gain on crits. Using that as like your form of recovery, maybe a little bit of leech as well. And then like getting relevant defense from the Dust Shroud stuff. This is a lot of Dust Shroud stuff. This is very, very relevant defense. And I would put this on every single Heartseeker build that I use, like getting a lot of Dust Shroud generation. So what these two people did is they looked at the Dust Shroud generation here, maybe the shadow stuff here, maybe the black arrow stuff here, but you'll see the black arrow stuff is just like more shadow generation over here, which kind of feeds into the shadow stuff here. But you'll see that if we can generate lots and lots of Dust Shrouds, we also get to use Umbral Blades. So are we direct casting Umbral Blades? Probably not. We're probably just proccing them off of shadows. So there's this little package of like shadow, Dark Quiver, Black Arrows, Heartseeker, and like Umbral Blades getting more damage per Dust Shroud. You can combine this with Smoke Bomb. When you're standing in that, this damage multiplier gets doubled. And then you could even have Smoke Bomb on a lower cooldown as your traversal skill, which of course gives you twice as much generation of Silver Shroud, which is a 100% chance to take 0 damage for the next hit. So that's pretty good. I like this a lot. I think it's a really good suite of damage. I don't know exactly what I would do if I were playing Heartseeker, but like the Dust Shroud generation from this, the Black Arrow chance, and then like the Black Arrows, when you pick them up, they create a shadow, and then you have a 30% chance. It's basically a 30% chance for like double Heartseekers to shoot, and if you're scaling bow damage, then that's double damage, but I like it. I like it a lot. The combination of Heartseeker, Umbral, and Dark Quiver looks very, very cool. Notable in this is that both of these builds will have these 4x1 idols that say % increased damage with Umbral Blades per stack of Dust Shroud. So when you're building Dust Shrouds, you're getting defense for yourself. You're getting evasion as well, because Dust Shrouds give flight evasion chance. And then you're getting % increased damage and % more damage. And like that's starting to look like a real thing that you're very willing to stack up. So I like the looks of both of these a lot. The first one is Crit. It's using a Dragon Song. You can poke around the details yourself. And the other one, of course, is Bleed. I think most Heartseeker builds are going to end up being Bleed on day 1 and day 2, because Puncture plus Heartseeker seems super, super strong. This Bleed version, I'm not going to edit it here on stream. I just would rather talk to you about it. But I would also be interested in including something about like the Returning Darkness node on the bottom left that we just talked about. Maybe the shadow consumption as well. Because remember, every time that you're consuming a shadow, you're also creating an Umbral Blade. And then those Umbral Blades could explode if you're creating a whole bunch of them. So, something about this looks real. Looks real to me. And I like the looks of it a lot. So those are some good ideas. Let's close these out and we'll move on to the next thing. So we talked about Fissure Smite. We talked about Umbral Blade Heartseeker, because those were the builds that our Twitch chat was looking at for Heartseeker. We didn't really cook up any other Heartseeker stuff. So let's go to the top and talk about Multi-Smite VK. We're going to talk about 2 Multistrike Multi-Smite builds. I guess we're going to talk about 2 Multistrike builds. So for a moment, just for a moment, a fleeting moment, in Discord, Mike from EHG was unsure about whether the multi-strike node that allows you to shotgun a single target would also work with Smite. So while he was unsure about that, we cooked up a melee damage version. We'll talk about that in a moment, but let's focus on the spell damage stuff because he later did confirm that this multi-strike node, shotgunning, does work with Smite. And then he said, be careful, it costs a lot of mana. And it does cost a lot of mana. So this build is a Void Knight spell damage character. I say spell damage instead of void damage because we're going to have spell healing hands going off as well. So we're going to prioritize spell damage instead of void damage if we can, because scaling all of our damage is better than scaling some of our damage, but it's a moot point because healing hands doesn't convert to void. Maybe someday, go buy a supported unique item. Do it. So what do we need? We need a weapon that has minus mana cost on it. You could YOLO damage and dual wield. You could dual wield like a sword and a wand, or a sword and a scepter in order to have the minus mana cost somewhere to get Smite's mana cost from going from 3 down to 0. So the big question in this build to me is, like, it's going to have damage. It's going to pump damage. I have no doubt about that. The question is, can we deal with the mana cost here? So it's going to cost, like, when you attack with Multistrike in the skill tree here, we generate 10 mana. And then Smite itself costs 0 mana, but it's going to consume 3, 6. So each remaining sword beyond the first should cost mana here. I think if you position correctly, the first one won't cost mana. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work, but it's either going to be 6 or 9 mana cost. But then the echoes from being a Void Knight, because we're expecting a 40% echo chance, in addition to this, which is additional echoes, repeated by echoes have additional swords, each of those swords will, I think, be working with this and consuming more mana. What I'm trying to say is your mana is the problem to fix in this build. We've chosen a Scepter, so we have a sealed -3 mana modifier on it. We're not using Omnipotence because Omnipotence doesn't solve the problem, and it also doesn't have melee attack speed on it, so it's a staff. We're not using it. We are not using the Forgotten Knight sets because we need to be using a Scepter for the minus mana cost. And then we want to use a shield as well because shields are good. We like shields. They technically cost us a more damage multiplier in the VK skill tree. I know, but I think it's worthwhile to have a shield because you're a melee build. And then not using a wand because the Scepters can roll melee attack speed. So that's the justification for using the weapon type here. The other things that we're doing in terms of mana cost are Devouring Orb, spec'd really just for utility. There's no damage nodes here. We don't care about damage. We're using it for a more void damage multiplier that's global, so it affects your smites as well. And then this node for void essence chance. So the rationale for this build to try to solve mana is to spec into the nodes in the Void Knight skill tree that say when you have 3 or more void essences, if you drop below 3 mana, you consume 3 void essences to get 30% of your mana back. So do you need to build mana to make this work? I don't know. We'll see. Because you can also combine this with Multistrike when you drop below 0 mana, consume all stacks of armament to restore mana per stack. So we have like 2 different things going on here. Do we need to build percent mana or increase mana somewhere to make use of this node better? I don't know. Do we need to spec into Future Mind with an 8-second cooldown? Probably not an 8-second cooldown. I'd be surprised if that's the case here. So that's the thinking of the build. The last thought of something that might happen if you play this build is you could spend 1, 2, 3, 4 and put points into Desperate Measures. This says that when you're out of mana, Smite is free, which is really interesting because your Vengeance, or sorry, not your Vengeance, your Multistrike is free, your Smite's free, your movement skill is free, your Devouring Orb, not free, but you were only using it for mana to begin with, so and then Anomaly has a mana cost. It has a mana cost of 20 minus 3, 17 mana cost. So I don't know how that would work if you're just like letting yourself go negative mana, but it's an option, and if I were going to play this, that's something that I would keep in mind, and maybe I would end up using it. So that's the planner for you there. Void damage, armor mitigation, a bunch of vitality. If you're doing anything with Devouring Orb, try to get your vitality up to 90 so that you can double the more multiplier from this thing. So that's up to you. Let's close this out and talk about the next Multistrike build. While we were discussing whether the Smite nodes works, it does work with the shotgun node. But while we were discussing that, we said, okay, well, is there something else we can do instead? Maybe this. If you want to play melee Void Knight, Erasing Strike looks great. I love Rive. I'm sure that VK Rive is going to be a good thing. You get like the double effect of your flat stuff, or of your 200 weapon, all the text in your weapon, And then you also get like double echo chance. You get all of your damage converted into void. And I love that. So good. Oh, actually, this is a 1.2 planner. Where's the void conversion? It's supposed to be there. Void cleave. No, that's not right. Revive here. Echoes. Oh, okay. So the very last node has the void conversion on it. Got it. I didn't know which node had it. So the void conversion here just means like the flat damage from the implicit of Apathy's Maw gets converted to void as well. So instead of having like, 70% flat damage is void and like 30% of it is physical, now all of your damage is void, which means all of your damage being affected by more multipliers to void damage for vitality and like all those kind of like void increases for like melee damage, whatnot. So this is a melee build. It means you have to use Shattered Chains because this gives you 20% more damage. You could use some different belts. There's some really good belts these days, but Shattered Chains, like the whole Doom thing, enemies take % increased damage and more damage per stack of Doom. It's really good. So likely this would end up being a Shattered Chains build, which is maybe boring if you played a bunch of melee builds in the past, but I do think it'd be very strong. There's nothing else really going on here. Multistrike does not convert to void the way that Rive does. Because of that, we want as much flat melee void damage as possible, which leads us to using Apathy's Maw. We have enough critical strike chance here. You'll see like some tier 7 in one place and another tier 7 over there. So a little bit of %. Actually, it's triple tier 7. It's a lot. So I tried to cover the critical strike chance on gear because I only have like a 1 LP Apathy's Maw here. Obviously, your life gets a lot easier if you have like a 2 LP Apathy's Maw with tier 7 melee critical strike chance. I like attacking fast. I think it's really fun to attack fast. I also think like the animation for Multistrike is like kind of a clunker. It's like kind of a bit slow, feels weird. I think they mentioned in the patch notes somewhere that the animation was being sped up or something, but yeah, I don't know. It's like look for attack speed where you can, just in case it doesn't feel good. So, or just get a 2 LP, and it solves all of your problems for you. Is there anything else interesting to talk about here? Yeah, it's like Healing Hands doesn't convert to void damage, so you like just build as much flat void as possible. Same thing with Multistrike. I'm sure it's good, but given that the Smite stuff works, and I think you can solve for the mana, I think the Smite stuff is much more interesting. So that's cool. Noteworthy that we have 9,500 armor on this Void Knight, because once again, we're going bear, bear, bear. As an aside, you'll note that a lot of these builds have T7 movement speed on a Blood of the Exile. Obviously, if you get like more LP, you go like Vitality on them as well. But like getting guaranteed Tier 7 movement speed on Blood of the Exile is going to make your Sentinel builds feel way better. If you've never had this pair of boots in the past, Sentinels aren't really that fast. This is a great pair of boots. It is easier to get a 1 or 2 LP Blood of the Exile than it is to get something like Inevitable. Inevitable has Vitality, which is good. But the Blood of the Exile also have like strength on them. Strength gives you armor. So like you're giving something up. But Inevitable is harder to get. It's a drop from a Harbinger and from Aberoth. Presumably from Uber Aberoth as well, but I don't know the loot table. So that's like it's another endgame item to keep in mind. Let's close this out and talk about the next builds. We talked about my league starter, Fissure Smite. We talked about Umbral Blades, Heartseeker stuff, and 2 multi-strike builds. The next one that we'll talk about is kind of different. Someone in chat actually just said like, oh, is there a Primalist build that you'd recommend? And this is kind of a cook, but it looks sweet. So I like the looks of this a lot. This is a Lightning Bug build. The Lightning Bug build in the past, if you haven't seen it, it's a Stormbleed build that procs tornadoes and you shimmy your way through an echo, and Tornado was changed in patch 1. To proc Gathering Storms, and then Gathering Storms is a nice skill tree here. So it's good. A lot of the Lightning Bug builds in the past had a lot of attack speed, and you would dual wield because you had so much tankiness, and the tankiness came from having things like Cath Dodge from Serpent Strike, along with Aspect of the Boar, which is no longer there. And then you would put that along with things like Impervious and Hide Skin at the top of the Druid skill tree. So we've lost defense because we've lost Aspect of the Boar, which is it's notable to lose Aspect of the Boar because it's really big. And then we've also lost the dodge chance. So in my experience, my Swarmblade builds have always been like a little bit squishier than I want them to be ever since the Aspect of the Boar in the Beastmaster skill tree got moved to beyond the halfway point. What does that mean? It means if you're playing a Lightning Bug build right now, you will find yourself squishier than you've been in the past. And I don't like that, especially considering that the old archetype was a dual wield archetype. And I don't like that. So that leads us to, why is this build interesting? We have lots of new stuff going on. Let's talk about the damage thing that's exciting, and then we'll talk about the defensive thing, which should definitely be on your radar because it's so strong. Damage first. Damage is interesting. This is Stormbreaker. It's a very bad item. Okay, it's not bad. It's kind of bad. It's an item that you are currently in patch 1.1 not excited to use. In the future, in patch 1.2, it has a new line of text. It says, gain a storm stack when you directly use a melee attack and hit at least one enemy. I've heard people say that they're excited about this item because they want to play a Beastmaster and stack attack speed, or they want to be a shaman with attack speed or something. And like, you could use a melee attack like Tempest Strike in Beastmaster form and gain storm stacks. That's true. You could do that. However, to me, the most exciting thing about Stormbreaker is that it allows you to gain storm stacks, which is currently completely unavailable to you while you are transformed. So what does that mean? As long as you have one storm stack, you can gain more storm stacks from a node like this called Friend of the Tempest. So Friend of the Tempest in the Gathering Storm skill tree in the bottom middle, it says if you have at least one storm stack, your minions' lightning skill hits have a chance to grant you more storm stacks. So you can put 2 points in this, 1 point in this, however many points you want. But this build will be walking around in Stormblade form and will be proccing chance to summon a Thorn Totem at hit. Thorn Totems will have 5 Thorn Totems summoning here. And then all of these are going to have like a bunch of cast speed from the Titan's Bane node and a tiny bit of Pierce just to make them hit more stuff. I think this is going to feel very reasonable. It's going to feel a little bit like an automatic build that walks through echoes and bombs enemies, if you catch my drift. So for single target, you will want attack speed. You will want to proc the tornadoes in Swarmblade form, and that will give you more tornadoes here. The more tornadoes here give you more frequency of the Gathering Storm stuff. So like, you still have the Lightning Bug build that existed in the past, but the difference in terms of offense is that now you get to automate some of that clear speed. I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. I like the idea a lot. Hopefully it's good. Stormbreaker is a two-handed mace. It's slow. It's 0.9 attack speed instead of being like dual wield, like T7 melee attack speed. Like, it's going to be different. Hopefully it is still good. Notable because it's the mace, we get to get a bunch of flat damage from the Tempest weapon node in Gathering Storm. Enough about that. What about the defensive part? This item exists and you should know about it. Mantle of the Pale Ox is like Titanheart if Titanheart were just better. It says up to 24% of damage is redirected to your highest health minion. If you incidentally have minions in your build, like you have forged weapons, or maybe you're proccing a whole bunch of thorn totems, or maybe you have like some random locusts running around, is pretty strong. There's text here that says a minion can have any amount of damage redirected to it, even if that damage would leave it below 0 health. Which means if you have a minion, this is kind of like 24% DR. Awesome. It also has percent increased health on it. It also has movement speed. It has strength on it. It's got low armor base type, but it's got strength too. And then it's got plus level to minion strength skills. Would you believe it that Swarmblade form is even plus levels to a minion strength skill? So this is an item that you ought to know about. Big. It's also like, you know, get 1 LP on it, guaranteed 1 LP slams. Sounds like a fun thing to do. So I don't know how good it is, but it's very exciting. You get attunement in as many places as you can because Gathering Storm gains flat spell damage per attunement. And because you're not using a source of spell damage like a wand or a scepter, you need that flat damage to come from somewhere. So that's what your attunement's doing there. You can poke around this build. I think it's really neat. Don't know how good it is, but it looks like a really neat. Shit, I said neat twice. Moving on to the next build. We're going to talk about a build very briefly. This is a build that I'm including because someone out there is going to be happy that there's a build planner for it. Someone out there has been looking at Smelter's Wrath and saying, boy, it looks good, but I don't see anyone cooking Smelter's Wrath builds. I have it on some authority that this looks like a real build. I don't want to play Smelter's Wrath, but You got to stand still. You got to channel it. It's a melee build. It's Forge Master's Might, so you can't gain haste. You gain block chance instead. So I have it on some authority that this build's reasonable. The rest of it's up to you. It's a Smelter's Wrath build. It's a Forge Guard. It looks reasonable. Links in the description. Play at your own risk. I've spent no brain power on it, but one of you is going to be happy. So this goes to you. Let's talk about a different forged weapon or forged guard build. Actually, wow, the next two builds are forged guard builds. Unreal. Okay, let's talk about this one. This one's very exciting. This is a build cooked up by Cursed Boy, who is also a content creator. So go follow him on Twitch or YouTube or whatever. So he cooked this up with his Twitch chat. And then we talked about it for a long time, talking about how to solve the mana. And the biggest question about this build, before I tell you about the build, the biggest question about this build was the Phalanx two-handed spear, new weapon, season 2. The bottom line of text says 100% chance to use javelin when you riposte. Riposte is a sub thing of vengeance. So if javelin has a cooldown, which ours is not going to, then it must be on your bar and off cooldown for this effect to trigger, and triggering it puts it on cooldown. So you can't use this with like Holy Trail, for example. At least you can't use it with Holy Trail very well. We are not doing Holy Trail stuff. The big question about this is like, does it consume mana? If it consumes mana, then you need like minus mana cost on your rings. Maybe you need like vengeance, restore mana when you use vengeance, and you just gotta like figure out exactly what to do. Like maybe some tier 7 minus mana cost, throwing skill modifiers. But way more exciting, Mike from EHG confirmed on Discord. He said it looks like a bug, that it doesn't currently consume mana, but he said that they are deciding not to change it, not to bug fix it. If it is a bug, it's not a bug. Mike, don't screw me, dude. This does not cost mana. The fact that Javelin does not cost mana over this is exciting because you can really crank the mana cost up. We have a 9 mana cost by default on Javelin. We can make it plus 10 to 19 mana cost, and we can add plus 40% mana cost off of this node, adding additional javelins. And then you could even pretend like you have clear speed by using the Siege Bombardment or Siege Barrage node along with Divine Fury. This now works. Doesn't work in patch 1.1, but it will work in season 2. So you'll have the javelins rain down from the sky, and then they will also go and shoot more projectiles horizontally through the screen. It's clear speed. Yay, clear speed. So this build, as you poke through it, is a vengeance build. It procs damage off repost. So an enemy is going to hit you, which means we need defense, which means we're using a shield. We're going to be a forge guard. You could do this entire build with more damage as a paladin if you wanted to. But the fact that we have to be hit to have any damage at all makes me feel like maybe being a forge guard, maybe dual wielding a two-hander plus a shield, maybe it's actually a good choice. It's a lot of maybes, but trust the process. So vengeance is spec'd all for less damage taken, less damage taken, less damage taken. When we attack with vengeance, we can repost. An enemy hits us, we repost. That's when javelin happens. Javelin is spec'd for more damage over time along with Electrify. And then in the rest of our build, you'll see that we're building both Ignite and Bleed. And of course, Ignite is more important because in our smites that are be procced off of throwing hits from our idols, Ignite will convert to Electrify chance for this. So Electrify is a high priority. Ignite is a high priority. Bleed is not as much a high priority because Bleed only converts for one of our skills, not for both of our skills. So we have these idols here. In the past, you would have wanted 4 of these, but because they've been buffed to be up to 20 or up to 50% chance, up to 25% chance on each one, times 2 is 50% chance, and it has a cap on it. So like these, the buff or the side grade to smite idols that happened like 1 or 2 patches ago really helps out this particular build. I like it. I like the use of these a lot. So we are a lightning damage over time build. Because of that, we're also healing hands. Healing hands procced off of our melee attacks. And then we also have 1 point into the divine bolt stuff. We'll get to that in the paladin skill tree. And of course, all the points for Electrify because this is a Electrify build. In the paladin skill tree, we have like 1 point here. It just means like on your melee hits, and then vengeance and repose both count as melee hits. these can proc Divine Bolts, which can help you spread your Electrifies to deal more damage, to have more better clear speed, things like that. What else is interesting about this? It doesn't cost mana. The most interesting thing about this is that it does not cost mana. It's so good. Are you going to use a Titan Heart for DR instead of using a Champion Regalia with the Bear Affix? Let's see, is nothing sealed here? Nothing sealed here. So it looks like you can make room for the sealed affix of Bear if you wanted even more armor, because you only have 5,000 armor right now. But you can fiddle with that if you'd like to, whether you're an appreciator of Titan Heart or whether you just want more strength and easier crafting instead of hoping for a 4 LP in Merchant's Guild. It's up to you, dude. It's up to you. I don't think there's much else that's interesting here. Yeah, it's like the Forge Guard skill tree ain't great. You could definitely get more damage out of this by being a paladin instead. More lightning damage over time per 2 crit multi, and you are literally a Electrify build. So you're definitely missing out on like more damage from this. But like you're melee, so maybe maybe being a Forge Guard is worthwhile. So that is up to you. But the archetype is very cool. I like the Phalanx thing a lot with Electrify. Let's move on. We actually, believe it or not, have one more Forge Guard build to look at before we move on to a different mastery instead. This is a Forge Guard build making use of Forged Weapons. So the history of Forged Weapons, let me fill you in on why I think this is fine. First of all, look at this thing. It's fucking strong. I love this. Forged Weapons in the past. When I've asked people about Forged Weapons, they're a minion build, so I gravitate away from them. But they're cool, and I like the fantasy of them. So, Forged Weapon builds, in my experience of talking to a lot of people, always have had issues with survivability. However, in patch 2, in season 2, there's 2 big changes coming to Forged Weapons. One, they bug fixed them. They were supposed to be taking 50% less damage this whole time. They didn't. So that's getting fixed. So now we have 50% less damage taken. In addition to that, there's a buff where they're putting another 50% less damage taken on top of that. Pretty cool. So all of a sudden we have Forged Weapons that are taking a lot less damage than they used to. We also have like, we're attacking with a melee skill and we can proc Healing Hands, and Healing Hands can like heal the things around us, and that's good. We like that. We also have like this Healing Hands technology. We're a Forge Guard. We have like, if we're using our Healing Hands as a movement skill and we heal a nearby enemy, we get cooldown reduction, so we can zoom more often with Healing Hands. But that's not the exciting part. The exciting part is Vengeance, because Vengeance is a real skill. In the past, the best way of summoning Forged Weapons was to use Multistrike plus Forge Strike. In the present, in Season 2, Vengeance got buffed so that we have a chance to replace Iron Blades with Forged Weapons instead. So we have a 40% chance here. Chance to summon a Forged Weapon, a 40% chance. And then... Isn't that 8 of Iron Blades? They have a chance to attack with Iron Blade. They have a chance to be summoned as this. I thought it was a 100% chance. Why am I thinking that it's a 100% chance? Is it not a 100% chance? I think it's only a 40% chance. It's a 100% chance for Iron Blade. 100% chance for Iron Blade, but it's only a 40% chance to summon a Forged Weapon on hit. But you're still using Forge Strike in order to summon the majority of your Forged Weapons. We have Iron Blade. Oh, Iron Blade chance for attunement? Yeah, okay, never mind. Yeah, it's the same thing. So 100% chance for Iron Blade, but only 40% chance for Forged Weapons. Got it. We have relevant damage reduction from Vengeance, because Vengeance is a real skill and it's very good. Healing Hands is a movement skill with bonus cooldown because we have minions next to us and they're healing things, so we're keeping them alive better. Symbols of Hope, we can give a bunch of critical strike chance, percent increased damage, flight damage. Primarily, we're using Symbols of Hope for the DR as like a Flame Ward adjacent thing. For you people who've never played Forged Weapons in the past, the best thing to be doing with Forged Weapons is using Void Cleave. And Void Cleave kind of makes decisions for us because Void Cleave necessitates the use of a two-handed sword or a two-handed axe. So we have to use one of those two things. We can't use something like the Forged Weapon sets, for example, but more on that later. The best thing that we can do to juice up our damage is to give them a ton of flat fire damage off of these nodes here. So we have 2 charges over here. We have increased molten infusion effect. It only hits your minions, and you just juice the shit out of all your forged weapons. So this is the best thing that you can be doing here in terms of like juicing up a minion. It is relevant that Phantom Grip was bugged during Season 1, during patch 1.1, because the last line of text on this said the stats on your glove applied to your forged weapons at 100% effectiveness. What it actually did is it applied all of your gear to your forged weapons, which maybe they should just do that. That sounds pretty cool. So they fixed that, so that's no longer the case, which is why they went through and they actually added some extra buffs to the forged weapon, like inherently how they work and like the skill tree as well. So I like that because I don't like using bugs because they're boring. We want attunement because we have forged weapon or iron blade chance in the vengeance skill tree. So attunement's important for that. And then if you play these kinds of minion builds in the past, the best thing that you can do to have a good time is to invest into the defenses of your forged weapons. So forged weapons scale life off of attunement, and then the scale damage off of your weapon itself. So the reason we're building attunement is that it gives us so much flat life for the forged weapons. Yes, good. You want at least 80. Probably not much more than that, but you definitely want at least 80 because of vengeance as well. In for the weapon, talking with Twitch chat, it sounds like Gazzy is also looking at some forged weapon builds. It looks as though Gazzy's approach to forged weapons is looking at Sword Catcher. And Sword Catcher is a Giga Chat item. I don't know if it's the right choice. Like if you get like 2 LP or something, yeah, it's good. But so it has a lot of damage on it. We can compare this real quick. Keep in mind that the the Void Cleave Molten Infusion buff that we just talked about gives you a ton of flat fire damage. And like you already have so much flat fire damage. So the fact that like we have like melee damage here and then melee damage for you and your minions, and like that gets doubled because like it's a copy of you and like the melee damage applies to itself. Like I get it, it's good. I understand it's good. It's definitely good. Melee damage here. But I think that the flat damage that you get should not be a differentiator. So we're gonna move past that instead. So we have parry chance. Forged weapons can parry, as far as I understand, which should grant frenzy to the minions as well. Increased effective frenzy, I don't know if that works, but giving them frenzy is pretty good. It's like attack speed. I love attack speed. So there's definitely merit to this. On the other hand, let me try to sell you on the Odachi. Odachi, as far as I understand, is what these forged weapon builds in the past were trying to use. And it seems like having a huge chunk of % increased damage is a great way to actually crit cap your forged weapons. So this build planner, for example, is crit capped on our forged weapons. We have, without respect to Void Cleave crit vulnerability, we're at like 102% critical strike chance. So you could even drop some and then like be more reliant on crit vulnerability from Void Cleave if you wanted to. But we have a lot of crit chance. So the tier 7 crit chance I think is mandatory. Having the shred here is awesome as well because it means you stack up a ton of shred. The fire penetration because you're leaning on so much fire damage coming in from your molten infusion buff from Void Cleave. Then you even have a bit of a flat fire damage coming in from Falcon Fist because increased effect of the stats from your weapon or from your gloves from the Phantom Grip ring because we're using 2 of those there. So it's like a lot of moving pieces, but I think Odachi has a lot of merit. And then, of course, the implicit is 170 melee crit multi, and we're crit capped. So, like, Odachi, to me, seems like a good choice. I like it. Of course, we have Mantle of the Pale Ox as well. This thing is nutso. It's got % increased health. This is important because we have all that attunement giving us flat health. And then it keeps you nice and safe because it has the 24% DR. It's got plus levels on it. It's got movement speed on it. It's insane. How does it get any better than this, gamers? Death Rattle, we talked about having 2 extra 50% less damage taken modifiers for forged weapons. Can we use Death Rattle? I don't know. Figure it out. It's got crit multi on it. Maybe it's good. If it's not good, go use something else instead. But this is like play it by ear and see how your minions feel. Speaking of play it by ear and see how your minions feel, I would like to shout out the node that got buffed in Forge Strike, this node called Shrapnel. It says your forged weapons have less duration, minus 75% duration, but they deal plus 50% more damage. I think that 50% more damage is worth investigating, depending on how fast you can summon your forged weapons, depending on how much damage they're taking, how much you're investing in the survivability. I don't know about this node, but if you want to test it out, you go try out this node and tell me what you think about it. We are a forge guard. The skill tree kind of builds itself. You click on the nodes that aren't garbage. You click on the attunement nodes. You're tanky. You got symbols of hope. Done. Yeah, it's kind of a boring skill tree, but I spec'd into, I guess Paladin is Fire Shred here, huh? Fire Shred's kind of interesting. I spec'd into the axe throwing stuff because some of your damage is going to be physical damage, and getting Fizz Shred and Fire Shred at the same time felt nice from the Shield Breaker plus axe throwing node in the base Sentinel class. So that's the rationale for those things there. Noteworthy, this build has 4,000 armor instead of like the 9,000 armor that we've been looking at in the bear set builds. But I don't know. It's a Forge Guard. It's good or something. Poor Forge Guard. Even on the builds that excite me for Forge Guard, I'm still just like throwing shade at it. It's fine. Let's keep going. We have 1, 2, 3, 3 more builds to talk about. This one's interesting. This build started out as a Sorc. It's a Runemaster. That's kind of weird. I didn't think that I was going to spend my couple hours leading up to Season 2 playing Runemaster builds or looking at Runemaster builds, but I think that Runemaster offers more to this build than Sorc does. We are not a big mana cost build. We are not building a bunch of mana. We're not using Static Orb to apply Spark charges. So, like, what is Sorc doing for us? I don't know. It's obviously good, but, like, I'm not using anything. So the question is, like, what does Runemaster offer instead? And the answer is maybe something. I think Runemaster needs a buff. Hot take. So we got a couple nodes in here for more damage to bosses and more damage to branded enemies. Actually, I think I need a brand in here, don't I? Isn't there, like, what's this thing do? Lightning skills that cost at least 50 mana from brand deception. Brand deception, brands of trespass, brands of subjugation. I don't have any brands, do I? Oh, it's just flame rush. We have no flame rush. I don't think we currently have a brand in the build right now, because I don't have anything that costs over 15 mana here. Lightning skills that cost 15 mana. Light cold. I don't think so. Okay, so maybe this node is not what we're looking for, given that I don't think we have a brand right now. All right, that's for you. That's your homework assignment, okay? Why are we playing a Runemaster? Because I think it's okay. Because Sorc, it didn't offer too much, and maybe Runemaster offers more. I don't know. So we have Runic Invocation, basically spec for Cold Fire Cold to give you some ward per second stuff. There, that's all this is doing. Let's talk about the exciting part of the build. We're doing two things. I guess we're doing a couple things. We're using set crafting, which is brand new. So we have the Velatria set, which is +1 spell damage per 2 intelligence. And we have like 135, maybe 141 intelligence on our gear right now. Basically, you're putting T7 intelligence on all of your gear and then trying to round out your life as well, because I think we're going to be a life-based build. I don't think we generate enough ward otherwise to complete the 4 goal of life, for example. So we're using the Velatria Reforged set. We have a bunch of cast speed, some crit multi, and then a sealed tier 1 modifier. On the helmet as well, we have a sealed tier 1 modifier to get the set bonus. I don't prioritize having the shock chance per intelligence. We're going to have plenty of shock chance. I'm not worried about that. So just a sealed tier 1 should be good enough. So that's interesting. We're not doing spark charges because obviously spark charges don't work with the Velatria set, and having a bunch of flat damage based on intelligence sounds juicy and I like it. It's new and exciting. Let's talk about Lightning Blast real quick, because Lightning Blast is basically, it's not completely new, but it's got 2 big changes coming in the Season 2 patch. And everybody loves Lightning Blast. I remember Enki's Arc Witch build from back when I played Path of Exile. Everybody loves like Arc. Everybody likes Arc Traps. Everyone likes Lightning Blast. It's just like, oh, it's so good. And it's got MTX coming in Season 2 as well, which is the most important part. Other than, this node's been buffed. This node, instead of doing nothing, does something. So this node kind of gives you clear speed. You'll note that our Lightning Blast is spec'd for convergence, so we're going to have a lot of single target damage, and we're relying on the Halo effect node here to give us some extra like AoE damage to clear extra monsters. Hopefully it's good enough. It's going to be a lot of damage, definitely. Hopefully it's also enough clear speed. On top of that, Lightning Blast's default functionality has been updated for Season 2. So it says it chains to an additional enemy for each time it has been directly cast in the last 4 seconds, up to 2 times. So that means even from level 1, when you very first gain access to Lightning Blast, it's already going to be better in Season 2 for like AoE clear speed than it's been in the past. What that also means is you get plus 2 chains for like default Lightning Blast, which means that convergence is better than it used to be, which means that we can like put points into Arcing Power for additional chains there, which means that we can make use of the belt here. So there's a sealed champion affix that, remember, champion affixes are always sealed, so you can't use them with unique items. You can't use them with LP. But it says to up to 25% chance at tier 5 for Lightning Blast to chain 4 additional times, which becomes 2 additional single target hits off convergence, which looks awesome. And then on top of that, we have static, which has been updated in Season 2 as well. So when you have over 40 charges, you expend 10 to cast Lightning Blast. This is Lightning Blast crits have a chance to gain you an extra charge, so keeping this nice and topped off. And then Lightning Blast from Overload, product off of this thing, have a chance to chain 4 additional times. So like this, it's got base critical strike chance as well. I like the looks of it a lot. It looks like a really fun thing to do. Teleport doesn't really matter. Flame Ward doesn't really matter. Like the static stuff is new. The Lightning Blast stuff is new. Change target. Yeah, so this should work off of lightning or off of static as well. And then like this thing is Lightning Blast has a chance to get Spark Novas around the first enemy hits. So is that going to work with chains? Is that going to work? It should not work with chaining to the same target. I think it only makes one thing here. It should work with a double cast, and it should work with the static stuff here. Got it. Runic Invocation is not a movement skill. We have a Spectre for Cold Fire Cold for some extra ward per second. Teleport gives us armor, I guess. And I've been changing how I spec Flame Ward. I've been dropping the less elemental damage taken and instead taking 800 flat armor, because I think 800 flat armor is awesome. So that also means like if you're doing that kind of like flat armor stuff instead of elemental mitigation, you probably want to take like a bunch of armor and make use of Eternal Gauntlets for armor mitigation applies to damage over time. So there's a Lightning Blast archetype. It's pure Lightning Blast. It's no spark charges or anything. You just fucking spell damage crit, and maybe T7 crit multi, maybe T7 cast speed inside. You know what? I bet, like looking at this right now, like the Runemaster gives us, if we're using a staff, cast speed while using a staff. I bet that T7 cast speed probably feels better than T7 crit multi, because we're relying wholly on the halo effect for our clear speed. I'd bet that that's probably true. Okay, so cool Runemaster build. Honestly looks like a lot of fun because Lightning Blast is pretty and it reminds me of simpler times of playing Enki's Archwitch. We're going to talk about two more builds here. Let's pull it up like this thing here. All right, so last 2 builds that we're going to talk about that we've been cooking up. One is Trib, Spark Charge, Static Orb. So in the Sorc skill tree, here's the rationale for the build. We were looking at this node being changed. The abuse of this node in 1.1, like the best thing you could be doing with this was Frostclaw, because it hit so many times. So instead of removing Frostclaw from the equation, they removed everything from the equation except for Static Orb. Notably, they also removed the mana requirement from it, so that'll come up later on. So if you wanted to play Spark Charges, this would be an exciting thing to try out. There's obviously other things you could do. You could like Mana Strike, Spellblade, Shatter Strike, Spellblade, Lightning Blast, Cast Speed. You could like do some Lightning Blast stuff. I've done that in the past with the Mad Alchemist Ladle. But this is like new, so we're cooking. We're just cooking with Static Orb. What does Static Orb give us? It gives us a Trib, and I think Trib kind of went under the radar. I think it's a good wand that got overshadowed by other things that were better than it when it first got introduced. I think in patch 1.1 is when this first came to light. So it gives +3 to level of lightning spell skills. So like that's already a great place to be. And most notably, it gives us, when you use Evade, cast Static Orb for 90% of its mana cost. Using Evade to cast Static Orb sounds incredible. It sounds super fucking good. It also has cooldown recovery speed for Evade. And if you wanted to, you could use a pair of boots that has like +1 Evade charge. If you look for like Evade stuff here, +1 Evade charge on Outcast boots. This is something, maybe Shrine boots. You could do this instead of using a Citadel boot, which has more armor instead. I like armor, so I don't know. You can play with that if you need to. So the rest of this build kind of boring if you played like a Spark Charge build in the past. Intelligence gives you everything. Intelligence gives you % increased critical strike chance. It gives you flat damage. It gives you some ward retention for some of your ward generation, but that doesn't matter too much. So just like intelligence everywhere with 181 intelligence over here. And then of course, Orion's Descent gives you chance to cast Smite on 10 seconds cooldown reset when you use a potion volatile. The reason we're using this is that you remove all the text from this item and just pretend like it says +25 intelligence. Sometimes in Last Epoch, an item only has one line of text and you can just yeet the other 7 out the window and focus on the 25 intelligence instead. So int good. So we're going to try to use this thing if we can. What else is here? Intelligence, Flame Ward, intelligence stuff, level of Static Orb. Okay, so let's go to Static Orb. We'll talk for a moment here. There's some interesting stuff to talk about with Static Orb. When Static Orb was its most meta, we had Orbit Static Orb in the game. And this node had a -26 mana cost, and then it had chance to not explode. Which was awesome. Everybody played it. It was super fucking fun. It wasn't OP, but like it was so cozy. It was like shinier, like LED flashing lights, Orbit hammer throw. You know what I mean? It was like all the dopamine. This node, and in the past, it got changed so that the small orb chance with Scatter Orb is 20%. So instead of being 100% chance to have all these extra things, it's 20% chance to have fun. And then Orbit Duration is -35%. So the Orbit Duration right now is 3 seconds, -30%. It's like 2 seconds instead. So the duration is probably fine, but yeah, you know. So here's the question for this build. The question for this build is, do you need to take Ball Lightning? Do you need to take the -26 mana cost? Or can you go without it? If you can go without it, then you can use for the next 4 seconds after using Static Orb directly. The next 4 seconds after using Static Orb, directly casting Lightning Blast and hitting at least one enemy cast refunds 25% of this. I think, because it says directly casting Lightning Blast, I think that this works even if you proc Static Orb off of Evade, for example. So the idea is like, you're like an Evade Auto Bomber. I really shouldn't say that word. Fuck it. You're like an Evade Auto Bomber, and then every time you cast Lightning Blast, you're refunding some of the mana from like your big mana cost Static Orb thing. So maybe that's a functional thing here. If you want to try the alternative approach, the alternative would be don't take these 5 points over here, put 1 point into Ball Lightning, and then your single target would just be continue casting Static Orb over and over. But there's 2 versions basically, right? One is no Ball Lightning, yes, Lightning Blast with the Spark Charge nodes on the right side here. And the other would be don't take these, do put in the -26 node, and then just spam Static Orb for single target damage. I don't know which one's better. We have Static in here because Static is cool. It got updated, and I think it's a relevant inclusion here. Flame Rush is here because it can proc even more Static Orbs for even more Spark Charges. And Flame Ward is here because it is the best defensive skill in the game, and you should use it. So I like taking these armor nodes over here, and there's your 20 points. The rest of it is just Spark Charge. Click every intelligence node that exists. Yeah, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Good. You've seen Spark Charges before. If you've never played Spark Charges, go play Spark Charges. They're so fucking good. You could play Mana Strike Spark Charge. You can play Spellblade with Shatter Strike. You can play Sorc Spark Charges like this. You can play like Cast Speed Lightning Blast is your only thing with like Mad Alchemist Ladle. I've done that in the past as well. Just play it. Please, if you've never played Spark Charges, just go get some dopamine in your life. Go play it. The last build that I want to share with you, it has there's a 2-parter. The first one I think is neat, maybe good. The other one is also neat, maybe good. So we're putting this one at the very end of the video because I know someone's going to like the idea of it. Battlemage's Endeavor. This item has been buffed over and over and over and over and over. I think 5 buffs. It's got a lot of buffs. The very bottom line of text is the most important one. It has up to 75% chance to cast Lightning Blast when you use a melee attack and hit at least one enemy. Is it good? You're not playing this build if you're worrying whether it's good. So with the change to Season 2 LP slams, you can get a deterministic T7 melee attack speed on your Battlemage's Endeavor, which means that your availability of playing mean builds has skyrocketed because now you can slam one LP on this thing deterministically. Oh my goodness. So we have this. We also have the chance for Lightning Blast to chain 4 additional times as a sealed champion affix that cannot be put on a LP item. So we have to use this thing here. And then my idea for Battlemage's Endeavor a year and a half ago, the last time that I played it, was to make use of Halo Effect. And then, of course, you know from the 5 minutes ago when we were talking about Halo Effect, it used to not do anything. So these days, it does. It does something. They bug fixed it. So my idea would be to use Halo Effect in Lightning Blast as like your primary source of damage plus AoE. You have the convergence stuff down here. You're not directly casting it, so you're only getting the casts from your belt for chaining, and then Static Orb will chain a little bit as well with the Diode node here, chance for 4 additional chains. And then we're just like rounding this out with, you know, some generic more multipliers that function, right? Like not the double cast stuff because that's direct cast only. We're Spellblade for this, and we're melee attacking. So we are melee attacking with Mana Strike to recover our mana. We are attacking with Frostclaw, we're proccing Frostclaw off of the Frostclaw skill tree and the Spellblade skill tree and trying to get this to deal some damage as well. And hopefully it deals enough damage. So it's Lightning Blast plus some other things that might also be relevant. Chat, if you're ever playing a Spellblade, please spec Flame Ward. Any mage build that doesn't have Flame Ward spec'd is going to feel bad, and you're going to wonder why. And the rationale is it is the best defensive skill in the game. Use it. If you don't like using Flame Ward, play a different class. I don't want to bully you, but I kind of do want to bully you. So I want you to have fun. You know what I mean? We've already looked at build planners for people who don't want to be using Flame Ward spec'd. Use it spec'd or just don't play it. Look at me, dude. I'm a bully. If you made it to the very end of the video, make sure you let me know how much of a bully I am, okay? Why do I have intelligence? Oh, because we're not Spark Charge build, so we don't need T7 intelligence. We can go health instead. Got it. Oh, you can go bear. Bear. All right, so I've got 2,000 armor here. Flame Ward gives you another 800 flat armor. If you go bear on your helmet, body armor in here, you can have even more bear stuff. I guess it gets in the way of you having the Flame Ward charge, but I mean, like two Flame Wards instead of 3 Flame Ward charges is probably fine. It's probably fine. You know what? If I were going to play this build, I'd probably put bear on it too. Armor is just like so good. Any interesting blessings? No, not really. Anything interesting in the skill tree? Intelligence gives you flat crit and percent crits. Intelligence is Giga Chad. I've got 20 points. Take these nodes as well for the percent increased armor while you have this thing. Because you have ranged Mana Strike, it's very easy to keep this Arcane Shield up and procced. Looks good. Looks good. I'm going to save that. So like put that in YouTube video description as well. So those are some sweet cooks that we've had over the past 2 days or so, talking with Twitch chat. These are exciting things. If you are going to play one of these, or if you're going to like take this and morph it into whatever your build's going to be, let me know, because brainstorming builds is super exciting. I'm going to play that Fissure Smite, so I already know what I'm going to be doing in softcore COF. Yeah, that's it, dude. I'm into it. You can go mirror. You know, it's funny. Someone in chat just said that, and it's so funny. Because as I was talking about this, I was like, you know, you could do that. You could actually do that. You could technically do that. You know what you could do? Yeah, you're right. You could do that. You could use Mantle of the Pale Ox. Where's that unique thing that we were just talking about a moment ago? Giga Chad, new unique body armor. Where is it? Mantle of the Pale Ox. If you have random minions in your build, this item gives you 24% DR. So the question is, do you spec teleport and then have a bunch of cooldown recovery speed to have the mirror images on arrival and the mirror images on departure and mirror image, probably not duration because they're gonna die instantly, right? But like, do you want to spec mirror images in teleport in order to have a random minion in order to get 24% DR sometimes? Maybe Mantle plus Eterra's Path. Dude, Twitch chat's cooking live on stream right now. You go Eterra's Path so that when you're walking around, you're randomly summoning vines and the vines can get the DR for you. Ugh. Oh shit! You could use the crab ring, and then you could have the crab, and then the crab takes damage for you. Oh, and then you could use the crossbow guy, Malvern's Writ. You could do that to have the crossbow guy follow around after you. You could use the Tome of. Oh no, that's an offhand. Never mind. No pun allowed. What's that on? What's history? Yeah, Tomat's Incorrect History of Eterra. I'd be surprised if anyone actually uses this, but technically, it also achieves the purpose of having random ass minions following you around. Crossbow guy, crossbow guy. All right, listen, the video's gone on too long. Check out the description. Let me know what you're playing in League Start. I'll see you later.